doing something quick and easy. It's a dessert, a rhubarb crisp, but I like to save calories when I'm making desserts. I'm always watching what I eat. So in this case, I'm going to be baking the filling and the crisp separately for a couple of reasons. The first reason is there's butter in the crisp topping, and there's no substitute for that. So what I like to do, if I bake it separately and put it in a separate container and put the two together when I serve, I can control the amount of that topping. The second benefit from that is that the crisp topping stays crisp. It doesn't get soggy on day 2 as it does when you bake a rhubarb crisp all together in one container. So anyway, with that said, I've got 5 cups of rhubarb here. You can either use fresh or frozen. It's the same volume if it's frozen. I've thawed this, but it was 5 cups of rhubarb. I'm going to mix it right here in the same bowl. 3/4 of a cup of sugar. And you can use less sugar if you're using a different fruit. Rhubarb tends to be very tart. You can go down to 1/2 cup of sugar if you're using some other fruit. This is 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. And a tablespoon of cinnamon. Cinnamon goes very well with rhubarb. And I mix those ingredients, and that's going to be all there is to this for this point. We'll get that well mixed. And this is going to bake in a 400-degree oven for, what is the time on that? 35 to 40 minutes, or until it's bubbling all the way through. Now I'll pour that into, normally I'd use an 8x8, like a brownie pan, but that pan is in the freezer with something else. So this is about the same volume of size, and it doesn't need to be as high-sided as this, but I'll put it in here. Even it out and get it into the, like I said, 400-degree oven for 35 to 40 minutes. Get that baked until it's bubbling. Meanwhile, we'll be able to do the crisp topping. I'll be back in just a minute or two to show you how to do that. Now we're ready to do the crisp topping, or the crumble topping I like to call it. And there are only 3 ingredients. We've got butter, and as I said, there are really no substitutes for that. So we'll start with putting the butter in here. The next ingredient, and that was a 1/3 cup of butter. Then a 1/3 cup of brown sugar and 1 cup of flour. We'll get these things mixed together thoroughly, and that might just take a little mixing. You could use a pastry blender, but I get it there by using a spoon or a large fork. And that might take 2 or 3 minutes. As you can see, it's getting there. As soon as a few more pieces of the butter get incorporated till you can hardly see it except maybe pea-sized, then we'll be ready to put it in the tray. Looks like we're there. Then all we need to do, I've got a cookie sheet here with a piece of parchment paper. I greased it. I'm not sure it's necessary to do that, but put this crumble topping on the tray, spread it out so that it will brown evenly. What we're going to do is bake this again at the 400-degree oven for 10 to 15 minutes or until it's nicely golden. You'll recognize the color. And this can be baked separately after you bring the filling out of the oven, or as I'm going to do today, if you watch and pay attention to your times for 2 items, I'm going to bake this at the same time. Since my filling is already in the oven, I'm going to put this in there and bake it now with it, save a little time. For the crumble topping, it's going to be important to keep an eye on it and pay attention. I don't know about your oven, but mine has hot spots, and I need to turn my tray around once or twice and maybe even stir the crumble while it's baking in order to keep it from getting darker spots. I'll be back. And this is my crisp crumble topping. It's pulled away from the hot pan, and I'd have to say that this took me about 10 minutes to bake this. I stirred it 3 times during that time period, and if there's anything tricky about this entire recipe at all, it's watching this crumble, because it will go from golden to burned in a matter of 30 seconds. So I had to keep a close eye on this. It's done. It looks beautiful, and let's see if I can get it into this container in an easy because this is a container I'll keep it in and serve from when I'm serving the rhubarb crisp later. This is done. The filling is still in the oven and still baking, so I'll be back to show you the finished product. Let's see what we've got. I might add that you didn't see me put this lid on for baking. I did that after the cameras were turned off, but it should be baked with the lid on during that time period. Now I've taken it out of the oven and it has cooled to where I can handle it. Usually then I will put it into a container, something like this, for storage and serving out of, but we don't need that right now. I'm going to serve some up for you and we'll see what we've got. Another thing I like to call this is, and maybe it's even more accurate, is to call this a rhubarb compote with a crumble topping. Still warm, actually half hot. Then I'll take the crumble topping, I don't think I need any more than that for this, and then I like to add just a little bit of milk. I'm not sure that's not even a tablespoon, that might be more like a teaspoon. And then this is what we have. Now let's give it a taste. This is delicious, and the cinnamon adds a dimension that I think it puts it over the top. The crumble topping, like I said before, you can use as little or as much as you want, but going with a small amount really keeps this a whole lot healthier and less fattening than some of the other things that you might be eating for dessert, and you've sacrificed nothing in taste.